In November 1979, Billy Crystal, the legendary comedian, actor, and writer, walked into a Spanish-style house in Pacific Palisades, California, and felt an instant connection. To anyone else, it might have looked like an ordinary property in an upscale neighborhood, but to Crystal, it felt like the place where his life would unfold for decades. He paid $435,000 for it, a significant sum at the time, yet one that would soon seem like a bargain in hindsight. This home, with its distinctive architecture, sunlit rooms, and sweeping views, became more than a house. It became the setting for a life rich with family, laughter, and career milestones. Over the next 46 years, the home witnessed birthday celebrations, holidays, quiet evenings with his wife Janice, and countless personal and professional triumphs. By the time the property reached its peak valuation, it was worth approximately $10 million, a testament to its prime location and historical significance. However, despite this impressive history, the house now sits empty, seemingly unsellable. Potential buyers avoid it, even though it represents decades of memories from one of Hollywood's most beloved figures. The mystery of why this home, steeped in history and charm, cannot find a buyer has puzzled real estate agents and fans alike. The story of the house cannot be separated from the story of Billy Crystal himself, whose journey from a young boy in New York to a Hollywood icon is as compelling as any film he has starred in. Crystal's life has always intertwined with places that carry personal meaning, and this house in Pacific Palisades represents both his personal and professional achievements. To understand why the home now sits empty, it is important to trace the story of the man who lived there, the memories it holds, and the events that shaped both his life and the property he cherished for nearly half a century. Billy Crystal was born on March 14, 1948, at Doctors Hospital in Manhattan, New York, though some records mistakenly list 1947 as his birth year. From the very beginning, his life was marked by a sense of purpose and connection to the arts. His early memories were shaped by the vibrant neighborhoods of the Bronx, but his life truly began to flourish when his family moved to 549 East Park Avenue in Long Beach, New York. He was the youngest of three brothers, and the house quickly became a lively environment filled with energy, music, and the guidance of his parents. His mother, Helen, ran the household with a steady hand, while his father, Jack Crystal, worked tirelessly to provide for the family. Jack was not just an ordinary man with a job. He managed the legendary Commodore Music Shop in Manhattan, a place that was a hub of jazz culture during the golden years of swing. The shop was more than a business. It was a cultural institution, and Jack's role there connected Billy to some of the most important figures in American music history. Jack also served as the secretary of Commodore Record Company in Yonkers for nearly 2 decades and organized jazz concerts in places like Central Plaza Hall starting in 1949. His efforts brought live jazz to veterans' hospitals, nightclubs, and concert halls, helping people experience music even in challenging circumstances. Billy grew up in this environment surrounded by creativity and artistry, which instilled in him a lifelong love of performance. The house on East Park Avenue was not just a place to sleep or eat. It was a living museum of music, humor, and the values of dedication, family, and cultural awareness. This early exposure to the arts, combined with his father's dedication and the connections of his family, such as his uncle, Milt Gabler, founder of Commodore Records, laid the groundwork for Billy's later success in entertainment. These experiences made the eventual loss of his childhood home and father all the more profound, as every room and memory was deeply interwoven with the formative events of his life. Understanding these roots provides essential context for both Billy Crystal's personal history and the lasting significance of his Pacific Palisades home. Billy's childhood was filled with moments that, in hindsight, appear like scenes from a movie. One of the most influential experiences came from his connection with Billie Holiday, who frequently visited the Crystal home and became a family friend. Holiday gave young Billy the nickname Mr. Billy, while he affectionately called her Miss Billy. This unusual, yet deeply personal, bond exposed him to the world of music and performance in a way that few children experience. At the age of 5, he even went with her to watch the Western film Shane, an experience that sparked a love of acting that would later define his career. In addition to these extraordinary personal experiences, the Crystal household was also a hub of humor and laughter. Billy and his brothers would imitate famous comedians like Bob Newhart and Sid Caesar, honing their comedic timing and understanding the power of performance from a young age. The home became a workshop for creativity, blending music, comedy, and personal connections in a way that would shape Billy's personality and career ambitions. These experiences also highlighted the profound influence of his father, Jack, who was not only a provider but also a mentor. Jack's sudden death at age 54, while bowling in 1963, left a lasting impact on Billy. The timing of his father's death, coming immediately after an argument, created a sense of loss and unfinished business that haunted him for years. This grief later became the inspiration for his autobiographical Broadway show 700 Sundays, where he counted the approximate number of Sundays spent with his father and reflected on the love and lessons passed down during those formative years. The house in Long Beach, with its memories of music, family gatherings, and shared jokes, became frozen in Billy's mind as a symbol of everything he cherished and lost. It was this deep connection to home, family, and memory that would later make his Pacific Palisades residence not just a property, but a repository of decades of personal history. Every room, every corner of the house, was tied to his sense of identity, making it far more than a marketable commodity. Billy Crystal's teenage years and early adulthood were marked by a mix of grief, determination, and exploration. After the sudden loss of his father, Jack Crystal, at just 15, Billy was forced to confront the fragility of life at an early age. The loss left a void, but it also instilled in him a drive to honor his father's memory through his own achievements. He spent much of his adolescence reflecting on the lessons Jack had taught him: dedication, perseverance, and the importance of humor in life. Billy's mother, Helen, continued to provide stability, guiding her children with love and discipline while keeping the household functioning amid personal tragedy. At the same time, the family's home in Long Beach remained a central hub of memory, where every corner seemed to carry echoes of laughter, music, and heartfelt conversations. It was a place that preserved the past while subtly nudging Billy toward the future. This environment, rooted in strong familial bonds and exposure to the arts, shaped his personality and ambitions. Even as he navigated the turbulence of high school, Billy remained connected to performance, though he initially considered sports as his path. He excelled in baseball, captaining his high school team and earning recognition as a second baseman, which seemed to provide him with structure and purpose. Yet, life often has a way of redirecting ambition, and Billy's true calling would emerge in unexpected ways. His passion for storytelling, comedy, and acting was kindled by the creative environment of his childhood home and the cultural richness imparted by his father's love for music. These formative experiences would later influence not just his career choices, but also his attachment to homes he lived in, particularly the Spanish-style house in Pacific Palisades, which would serve as both a sanctuary and a place where decades of life unfolded. After high school, Billy Crystal's path initially led him to pursue sports at the collegiate level, earning a baseball scholarship to Marshall University in West Virginia in 1965. Baseball had been an integral part of his family's rhythm. His father had pitched at St. John's University, and the sport seemed a natural continuation of his upbringing. However, upon arriving at Marshall University, he encountered an unexpected obstacle. The baseball program had been suspended. This sudden shift forced Billy to reevaluate his goals and find a new direction. The disappointment, coupled with being far from home and the familiar environment that had nurtured him, prompted him to return to New York after just a year. Rather than viewing this as a failure, Billy embraced the opportunity to explore other interests, enrolling at Nassau Community College and shifting his focus toward theater. This decision marked a pivotal turning point, laying the foundation for the performer he would become. At Nassau, he began performing with alumni theater groups, experimenting with acting, and honing his craft in front of live audiences. The theater became a new home for his creativity, offering structure, community, and a sense of purpose that mirrored the formative experiences he had in his family household. During this period, He also met Janice Goldfinger, his high school sweetheart, who would become his life partner. Their bond deepened alongside his emerging career, providing emotional support and stability during a time of transition. Billy's immersion in theater, combined with the influences of his childhood, particularly exposure to legendary musicians, his father's guidance, and the playful humor shared with his brothers, helped cultivate a rich set of skills and instincts that would serve him in comedy, television, and film. It was also during this time that he began to internalize the lessons of resilience, patience, and adaptability, qualities that would later prove essential in navigating the unpredictable nature of Hollywood and show business. Billy Crystal's academic journey continued at New York University, where he pursued a degree in film and television directing, graduating in 1970. His years at NYU were formative in ways that extended beyond the classroom. The university environment placed him alongside peers and mentors who would later become prominent figures in the film industry, including Oliver Stone, Christopher Guest, and a young Martin Scorsese, who served as one of his professors. Under Scorsese's intense, exacting guidance, Billy learned to justify every creative choice and think critically about storytelling, pacing, and audience engagement. This rigorous training was instrumental in shaping his approach to comedy and performance, instilling in him a sense of discipline and attention to detail that became a hallmark of his career. At the same time, Billy's personal life flourished. He married Janice on June 4, 1970, cementing a partnership that would endure for decades. They had 2 daughters, Jennifer in 1973, who would go on to become an actress, and Lindsay in 1977, who pursued documentary filmmaking, continuing the family's engagement with the arts. Beyond family, Billy began to navigate the challenges of early adulthood and career building. He worked as a substitute teacher at Long Beach Junior High School while performing comedy at night, spending countless evenings in small clubs, honing his improvisational skills, and learning the intricacies of timing, audience interaction, and stage presence. These formative experiences, while challenging, prepared him for larger opportunities in television and film. They also reinforced the lessons he had learned in his childhood home: perseverance, creativity, and a willingness to embrace risk. The influence of family, mentorship, and personal discipline continued to shape his decisions, even as he transitioned into the unpredictable world of professional entertainment. In many ways, this period of his life mirrors the emotional resonance of his later home in Pacific Palisades, which would serve as both a literal and symbolic space for growth, creativity, and lasting memories. Billy Crystal's early career was a study in persistence, creativity, and resilience. After years of performing in small theater productions and improv groups, he began making a name for himself on New York's comedy circuit. During the early 1970s, he performed in clubs alongside some of the era's rising stars, including Robin Williams, Jerry Seinfeld, Andy Kaufman, and Richard Lewis. These were grueling rooms, where performers were tested night after night, and audiences could be unforgiving. Each set demanded precision, timing, and the ability to adapt instantly to unexpected reactions. For Billy, these experiences were both formative and humbling. He learned not only the craft of comedy, but also how to read a crowd, gauge timing, and connect emotionally while keeping laughter flowing. To make ends meet, he worked other jobs, including at the Bitter End, the Playboy Club, and the Comedy Store. This period of dual responsibility, day jobs and nighttime performances, was exhausting, but it forged a work ethic that would carry him throughout his life. Billy's performances began to draw attention, not just for his humor, but for his warmth, relatability, and ability to create characters who felt real. In 1975, he received what he hoped would be a major break, an opportunity to appear on the very first episode of NBC's Saturday Night Live. He prepared a 6.5-minute sketch, a mime routine where he portrayed Victor Mature crossing an African safari to rescue Rita Hayworth from a tarantula. The sketch required perfect timing and coordination, with Don Pertardo providing off-camera sound effects by crunching potato chips in sync with Billy's steps. Hours before the live broadcast, the sketch was cut down to 2 minutes, rendering it impossible to perform effectively. His managers refused to let it be butchered, and the sketch was ultimately removed entirely. To make matters worse, He had turned down a personal invitation from Bill Cosby to appear on a major special, only to end up missing both opportunities. While this was a devastating setback, Billy approached it with resilience, understanding that setbacks in show business were inevitable. This experience, though painful, taught him patience, adaptability, and the importance of preparation. It also reinforced a lesson he had learned in his childhood, that talent alone is never enough. Timing, opportunity, and perseverance are equally essential. This period of uncertainty, filled with both heartbreak and determination, prepared him for the breakthroughs that would soon follow, and it laid the foundation for his unique ability to combine humor, empathy, and timing in ways that resonated with audiences. The next pivotal chapter in Billy Crystal's career came with his groundbreaking role on the ABC series Soap, which premiered in 1977. He was cast as Jody Dallas, one of the first openly gay regular characters on American television. This role was both revolutionary and controversial, placing Billy at the center of a cultural conversation that extended far beyond entertainment. Before the show even aired, it faced fierce opposition. Religious organizations, including the National Council of Churches, United Church of Christ, United Methodist Church, and the Southern Baptist Convention, protested the show. The Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Los Angeles even called for a nationwide boycott. Advertisers withdrew support, and some ABC affiliates refused to air the program. At the same time, LGBTQ advocacy groups were concerned that the character could perpetuate harmful stereotypes rather than provide authentic representation. Early drafts of Jody's storyline had included a plan for gender reassignment surgery and a relationship with a closeted NFL quarterback, raising concerns about sensationalism. After discussions with these advocacy groups, the network agreed to alter the storylines to avoid misrepresentation. Despite these challenges, Billy approached the role with sensitivity, humor, and respect. He wanted Jody to be believable, warm, and relatable, a character who could elicit empathy while also providing comedic moments. When the show finally aired, it defied expectations. Approximately 19 million viewers tuned in weekly, watching Jody Dallas grow into a fully realized character whose humanity transcended controversy. Critics praised Billy's performance, noting his ability to balance comedy with emotional depth. The role not only solidified his presence on television but also demonstrated that thoughtful portrayals of LGBTQ characters could succeed in prime time. During this period, Billy quietly continued to refine his stand-up act, performing in clubs, developing new material, and preparing for the next opportunities in his career. The lessons learned from early setbacks, like the failed SNL appearance and the courage required to take on a controversial role, shaped the performer he would become. Jody Dallas was more than a character. He was a milestone in television history and a testament to Billy's talent, patience, and commitment to his craft. By the early 1980s, Billy Crystal had established himself as a versatile and respected performer. While Soap concluded in 1981, he continued to build his comedic and acting repertoire, balancing television work with stand-up performances and special projects. His ability to connect with audiences through humor, storytelling, and relatable characters made him a sought-after figure in Hollywood. In 1984, he finally returned to Saturday Night Live, this time not as a nervous newcomer, but as a confident host, bringing with him the experience, timing, and resilience he had cultivated over nearly a decade. The transition from disappointment in 1975 to triumph in 1984 illustrates the persistence that defined his early career. By this point, he had learned the importance of preparation, adaptability, and confidence, qualities that would serve him in film, television, and live performances for decades. Alongside professional achievements, Billy's personal life flourished. His marriage to Janice remained strong, and the couple celebrated milestones, welcomed 2 daughters, and eventually enjoyed the joy of grandchildren. Throughout this period, the home in Pacific Palisades served as a constant anchor, a space where family life, creative reflection, and personal memories intertwined. It was in this home that he could step back from the pressures of show business, spend quiet evenings with loved ones, and reflect on the path that had brought him to that moment. The significance of the house went beyond its physical structure. It was a repository of personal history, career milestones, and the relationships that had shaped his life. The long-term attachment Billy developed to the house mirrored his connection to the people and experiences that defined him, making it an integral part of his life story. Great. Now let's move into Billy Crystal's Hollywood breakthroughs, stand-up and Broadway